We're going to be talking with Adi Darma about their practice, their pursuit of spirituality, and the way that they manifest their life and live their spirituality. Thank you and welcome to Grove of the Gods.
Thank you for having me.
It's a real pleasure. You are, we have a bio below. If you could give me a quick introduction.
Okay, yeah. My name's Adi Darma. That represents, Adi means like first or supreme, and then Dharma means right action or like right way of life. So my background is in a mix of things, primarily Hinduism. I'm a Shiva devotee, and I've been one for about 13 years.
Okay.
And I also have an interest in chaos magic, Western magic, Taoism, so a variety of things there.
Let's get into the hard questions first, those wonderful icebreakers. What is your favorite incense?
My favorite incense, the one I use the most would be sandalwood.
Okay.
Yeah, I use that in all my pujas, so that's my go-to.
Awesome. We're going to come back to that word. You mentioned that word and the stuff, and I want more information on that word puja. But before we go to that, so you're using sandalwood. Are you using it for the clarification? What are you using it? Is there a specific spiritual purpose you're using the sandalwood for? Or
it's for it could be for cleansing, and it's also one of the common ones used as an offering in Hinduism to several gods, but especially Shiva. So
I'm just trying to make sure we all use incense. And we all use it for different reasons, and we all use different incense for different reasons. And it's always nice to see how people align with that kind of thing. Right. I've talked to people that work with dragon's blood. They do that for protection. You use sandalwood for cleansing. And it's just those kind of things that are good to know. Thank you very much. You've been a follower or worshiper of Shiva for the last 13 years. Can you tell me a little bit about, is that a daily practice? Is it a monthly practice? How do you incorporate your spirituality into your life? How frequent? How do you approach that?
Okay, so I've gone through stages in my spiritual growth and my practices. I've done when I first started, I did Tradic or candle gazing, and then I evolved into doing mantras after about 2 years.
Okay.
And eventually I picked up doing Shiva mantras for several years, and that led into a couple years ago I started doing the pujas, which is my primary form of worship. So I mix that. I still do a lot of mantras daily if I have a specific goal and I'm trying to like build spiritual energy. I can grind out a bunch of mantras. There'll be some variation of a Shiva mantra.
Okay.
And so, yeah, that's my main practice. And in addition to that, a lot of times I'll do a lot of writing to Shiva and the form of letters, just because why I do it for myself is it brings out my emotions and it allows me to clarify my thoughts. Okay. And a lot of times I'll use those in my pujas when I'm trying to manifest something. So, and it's more personal, if I'm writing a letter. So, yeah, that's a lot of what I do.
Please bear with me. Let's go ahead. What is a mantra? Can you explain a mantra?
Yes, a mantra, from the definition of like classical tantra, a mantra is described as a tool for thinking. Okay. So, we all have so many thoughts in our head of whatever type, and this is a specifically designed thought that you repeat over and over again, and it allows your attention to be narrowed into one point, so all the energy pools up into one thought that's generally a very good thought, and then that starts to dominate your mind and be the strongest thought, and it changes and shapes your character over time. So yeah, mantra is really it's a tool to get to later stages of meditation, and you use it to anchor your mind in one place.
Okay, cool. I wasn't sure quite how that worked. I mean, personally, I've encountered things like you have a mantra where you say this so many times and it's an invocation to Ganesha, or however you do that within that atmosphere. But also mantras are the thing. This makes so much more sense to me now, and thank you for explaining it. It's that key thing that you focus on, whether it's repeated in your head or out loud. Okay, cool. Thank you very much. Can you do a lot of meditation when you do this as that single focus? Can you go ahead and talk to me about meditation and how you use it? And I'm actually going to ask you to go through meditation a little bit and explain it and the whole idea behind it, if you wouldn't mind, please.
Okay, sure. I'll go through the traditional definition from the Yoga Sutras. They have three terms. There's dharana, dhyana, and then samadhi. Mm-hmm. And so the first stage, dharana, is concentration. What most people think of meditation, they're actually practicing concentration. Okay. And they're trying to get to the stage of meditation. So dhyana, the second stage, is meditation proper. And that's when your mind is in one place and time ceases. And so, like, if someone's meditating, or you know, like a Western would sit down and think they're meditating, right? When you actually go in the state of meditation, you'll gradually get more calm and relaxed, and then at some point, it's kind of like falling asleep, and then you come out of it, and your sense of time is gone, so you don't know if you've been there 5 minutes or an hour. So that's meditation, but the ultimate goal of sitting meditation is to get to samadhi, or one-pointedness, and that's beyond meditation. That's when you become one with, you could say, God or the source or whatever, right? And you become one with that energy beyond the mind. And then when you come back from that, that's when you're filled with a sense of bliss, and you're just like absolutely drenched in energy, right? You're completely absorbed in it. And so those are in like classical yoga and so forth, those are the stages. And so you're doing all the training to get to samadhi eventually.
You mentioned the word puja earlier.
Yeah.
How is that related to meditation?
Okay, so...
Or is it? I apologize. I may be jumping ahead. I apologize.
No, there are a lot of tools that are, they're all like loosely related, and eventually all the tools are related to the same long-term goal of self-realization, but they have different methods of getting there. So puja is a ritual worship where, which they would also, bhakti is what we call devotional worship, right? So if someone is a devotee of a god, they would say like a Shiva Bhakt or Saraswati or whatever deity, even, you know, Western ones, etc. If you're using the Hindu term. If you're doing a puja to a god like Shiva, like a Shiva Bhakt would do a puja or ritual worship to Shiva. Yeah. And with pujas, you can either just do it for general growth and prosperity and so forth, or you can also have specific goals like things you want to manifest, or sometimes people are trying to get like spiritual powers and stuff. Like that's one way they would do that. And the value of a puja, other than just spiritual growth, is that the deity takes on part of the karma and workload for you. So let's say you have some rough stuff you go through in life, it's just your lot in that life. They would take on part of that as part of a, sort of, you could say, a trade. When you do the puja, you're doing offerings, and then they would take some of that workload for you. So it can give you a lot of breathing room in life. So when I do them, one is just for growth, but then I would have a specific goal of, you know, it can be very mundane things, even like trying to get, you know, a raise, a job, or, you know, any mundane little thing. Like it can be relationship stuff. Whatever anyone has in life, they can use it for that. So, like, you know, when I was saying, when I would write my letters or write out things, I would generally, before I start the puja, I'll read out whatever it is that I'm working on at that time, and that's to get my mind focused and to bring those feelings related to those things up. Yeah. And then I would get into the puja, and I'll do like extra things to make my pujas emotionally more intense too. Like I can add extra not mantras, but they have like these other things that are sort of like worship poems, sort of in Sanskrit. There's a lot of different elements to a puja. I don't know all the terms for them, but you can add these extra layers to it to make the puja more intense. So when I say make it more intense, like the harder you push to change reality, like the more it will make your life more intense, but the payoff is bigger too. Because if you're trying to change something faster, you have to shift a lot more of your reality from the way it is right now. So those are a lot of the elements that would come into play when I'm doing a puja. So yeah, it's one of the main forms of worship and spiritual practices I have now.
While you're doing that, is it a focus on visualization or upon the words? Or
part of it is
I'm just trying to learn. Sorry.
Right. Yeah. Part of it is the words, because it's like there are a lot of different like Sanskrit things where I'll first, like, there will be something to honor Ganesha, because he always usually comes first in worship because he's the remover of obstacles.
Right.
Even if you're doing worship for another god or whatever.
Okay.
And then there's like a veneration of ancestors, and then family deity if someone has one. And then there's these different elements. Then so there's always like there's a couple of lines that are kind of like a mantra for each thing. Like if I'll do a rice offering, then I'll have a couple of lines for that. I'll do a water offering, an offering of fruit, and so I go through all these, and then the mantras that I'm saying, there's a kind of a rhythm to those and a certain energy. So a lot of what I'm focusing on is going deeper with the emotions and just kind of getting immersed in the energy while I'm, saying the words and giving the offerings. And eventually you kind of get pulled in it and you just go with the flow. So yeah, you start and you get into the rhythm, and then you feel the energy, and then it takes over itself. I said it's pretty fun.
Yeah. It sounds very intense. I do very different things. And that's why I'm very interested, because I have not gone down that rabbit hole. We're all on a path to growth and change. How did you end up going down this road?
It was I suppose you could say, a combination of two things. One, I was always self-improvement oriented, so I was always searching out things anyways. And when I was around high school age, I was very much into like fitness and martial arts. And then over time I started thinking, well, my body's not going to be young forever, so I'll work on my mind. So then I got into more like mental self-improvement, and then I said, well, what's more permanent than that? It led to the spiritual stuff, naturally into that. And then in addition to that, like I've had a lot of anxiety when I was younger, and I wanted some way to get a better handle on it. So, when you have something like that, nothing else works, you naturally try out things, you're more willing to try out things that you wouldn't be otherwise.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it landed me where I am today.
Awesome. Do you talk to people much about your beliefs? Do you try to explain them to people? Or is this just pretty much something that you just go forward with and you don't share much? I mean, are you trying to share is there a message you're sharing, or
yeah, somewhat.
Is there a goal you have by your path and your appearance on this show?
Oh, definitely. So yeah, I used to have a bit of a social media presence, and I got out of that actually earlier this year when I kind of had to reevaluate some of my goals and stuff. And now I'm just back getting into it, but I definitely enjoy helping people grow. And I also, I would like to build some type of a community eventually, just to move like, I think people can see that we're kind of on the cusp of a new era. Like, there's a lot of change going on in the world, for better or worse in some ways. Yeah, I would definitely like to play some part in moving the world in a more positive direction and share spiritual knowledge. So it's definitely one of my goals for sure. And yeah, I'm just now getting back into social media, so hopefully I can connect with some more people.
So are you working on a physical community? Or
I would like to do both, like, because I've had a bit of an online presence before, but I really do my best when I'm working directly with people, So that's my ideal, and so it's just a matter of finding the best way to communicate that. Yeah, it's definitely one of my goals to have both simultaneously.
Tell me about Shiva. You said you've been working with him for 13 years. Tell me what the message of Shiva is and what the purpose of Shiva is, just to kind of help educate the viewers.
Yeah, of the three main gods, you could say the Trinity in Hinduism, there's Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Brahma's the creator, Vishnu is the sustainer, and Shiva's the destroyer or transformer, depending. Shiva is what you would say is the least involved in creation, because he's basically he's always meditating. He's just on the verge of being here and not here at all, just dissolving, right? So he is also representative of the state of deep sleep. So Brahma would represent the waking mind, Vishnu would be like the dream state, and then Shiva's deep sleep, right? So he represents the samadhi state in a way. I was kind of drawn to Shiva because he's very good for protection, one thing, and he's also a god of apparent contradictions, and he's sort of outside of society. I could always relate to that. I kind of like outsiders. So yeah, he's known for being easy to please. Like if people are going to him, they're asking for something, like it takes less work in a way to please him. And he's also known as quick to anger, though. So a contradiction, right? So yeah, he's known as like a destroyer of demons, and but he also, ironically, would also grant blessings to those same demons. So it's sort of like someone. So when we talk about a demon in Hinduism, it's more like someone's nature would determine. You kind of go like, okay, if you're acting good, they would say you're more like on a dharmic side. And then when you start to act dark and malicious, they would just label you as a demon because it's your character. And okay. So when somebody comes to Shiva with something, it's kind of like the Midas touch, when the guy got that ability to turn anything into gold, right? Yeah. It's like, okay, you have this, but now it's your responsibility to know how to use it well. So with Shiva, it's sort of the same, like, he'll give you things, but it's like, okay, now you have this, and if you get yourself into a mess, you'll have to learn from it. With like Vishnu, it would be a little different, or Brahma, the approach is a little different. Like they wouldn't, they would be more like upfront about like your responsibility, like, oh, I'm not going to give you this, or there's going to be more stipulations up front, right? And with Shiva, it's more almost like a childlike, carefree nature. So he'll give it to you that easily, but if you make a mistake, you have to deal with it too. So
that's fair. Personal responsibility and all,
Yeah, and sometimes people learn the hard way, but that's how it goes. Right. So yeah, Shiva's he lives outside of civilization. He's meditating and wears like animal skins. He doesn't care about like how he's perceived by other people. Like he'll have ash smeared on him, and he'll meditate in cremation grounds and things like that. And whereas other people would think, oh, that's they would say that's unclean or something. To him, there's no difference. Everything's clean. Everything's God. So he's like, what's the difference? Right. And so a lot of who he is teaches people in that way to see God in everything. So yeah, I was drawn to him for a lot of those reasons.
Right on. Very cool. You said something earlier also about chaos magic. Could you give me a high-level falutin idea of what's going on there?
Oh, sure.
Because people talk about chaos magic, and there's like groups all over Facebook and everything, but they're just meme groups. So if you could explain a little bit for me, I'd be appreciative.
Okay, so the philosophy behind chaos magic, I didn't get into that too much, but some of the main practices behind chaos magic are creating sigils for yourself. And a sigil, is just like you create some type of symbol, right? And there's a few different ways to do that. And that's like if you want to manifest something, you would say like, I have a brand new car, and then there's a way to like create a symbol out of taking all the consonants in that, and then you can get creative with it. And so they have that, and then they also have this practice of creating what they call a servitor, which is a created spirit. And you can have those for protection and other things like that. Because I'm very pragmatic for the types of spiritual tools I use. Yeah. I took to that pretty quickly, and it has some similarities to some Hindu practices. So I kind of mixed them, and I got really good results. So
awesome.
Yeah, awesome. It works pretty well.
That's one of the things that a lot of us have learned to do is pick and choose and mix the things that blend. And we are at a point in civilization and history where we have access to all to that knowledge. And so why not take that knowledge and mix it and make it better? As long as you're respectful of cultures and things like that. But the piecemealing of beliefs from each system or each person, for that matter, is something that a lot of us do as pagans, because it's part of how we build those structures, because the things that we grew up with didn't make sense anyway. And the other structures don't always fit exactly where we're at, and we recognize that. And we see a need for adaptability.
Right.
So.
Yeah, absolutely.
What is the biggest lesson you've learned on this path about yourself?
The biggest thing that I've learned is, the biggest would be who I am behind the mind is a much bigger being, and also that my reality is what I make it and what I have made it, even when I did it not as consciously. So it's allowed me to take full responsibility for my life the way it is.
Awesome. And that's a terrifying as well as freeing thing, because it just really, putting all the responsibility in your lap makes you go, oh, it's my fault.
Yeah.
Did I bamboozle myself again?
Right.
What is your best method that you have, or the thing that you've been most successful with using to connect to other pagans, for the folks that are out there watching that are solitary and in a community that they don't know anybody? What do you do to meet folks?
Okay, if it's locally, it's been a little tougher. There are like Facebook groups, and that's definitely helped recently. Mm-hmm. As far as online goes, social media, Instagram, Reddit, YouTube, those are probably the biggest ones that I've made the most connections from.
Awesome.
And yeah, so it definitely can help.
Awesome. I'm old. Back in the day when I started, we did it on BBS. And we did it by dial-up. One computer at a time. But over the time, different things came into being where we were able to establish communities, like in Yahoo communities and Yahoo groups, and e-groups and all those things. Unfortunately, most of those have met both the demise of budget cuts and the rise of social media, because people are way more inclined to look at their phone, not their email.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I do remember the Yahoo. That was nice while it lasted.
It really was. I met a lot of folks on there. You were able to connect with a lot of people. You could drive them to a website if you had it. It was easy to answer questions. And it was really easy to connect with people around the world. And we really hadn't been able to do that up until then.
Yeah, I'd noticed too with one thing that made a difference. I used to have a meetup group, and I'd had some success with it before the whole COVID thing. This is maybe like 2016 or so. It did okay, but like I've noticed since COVID, it's a lot harder to just get people to get out. Yeah. And so that's where I'm noticing I'm having to work more, is to like convince people, hey, we can get out again. Let's interact. So yeah.
Yeah. People are still scared. Honestly.
Yeah.
They really are. I live in southern Indiana, and I live away from most folks out in the middle of the country. And there are folks that come out, but a lot of folks, they're all for it up until at times put their key in the car and come.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them. I understand. We all have some drag that happens that's a leftover from COVID.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not only the paranoia, and that's not even the right word. It's the suspicion of the fact that we could get sick by going out. But it's also the fact that we worked really hard while we were all sequestered into our homes to make a nice little nest that we don't want to leave anymore.
Yeah. People got really comfortable being at home in that time, and yeah, some of it's nice, so you can't blame anybody.
Exactly. And thankfully we have video. What is the most magical experience you're willing to share? You're either a thing that occurred to you or in front of you, or something you experienced internally, or what's the weirdest, coolest, most magical experience you've been through?
Well, I would have to first probably say a few of my samadhi experiences. Those are kind of hard to put into words, though, so I will go with another one.
Okay. Absolutely.
Yeah. I had an out-of-body experience one night. I think it was in 2018, somewhere around there. And I was floating above my bed, and I saw a Shiva lingam at the foot of my door of my bedroom, and it had a golden aura. It was glowing, and something compelled me to just bow to it. And I didn't even think to say this, but it just came out of my mouth. I said, please give me power, love, and knowledge. And I bowed, and then it jumped and kind of shouted almost like they describe sort of like in Revelation when it's like a voice of 1,000 trumpets or whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
It was like this loud noise, though, and it just jumped and had this burst noise. And then I woke up in my bed, and since then I just took it as like those were some blessings I received. And it made an impact because I still think about it. So
that sounds very cool and very intense.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So what is a lingam?
Okay, Shiva lingam is an impersonal form of Shiva, where it basically represents like the lingam would be like a phallus, and then it has this base thing it sits in, which would be like the yoni or vagina. So it's like it's creation, and with the male and female energies, and so a lot of times when people are doing Shiva worship, there's a specific type of Shiva lingam worship where you can put like water or milk or honey on the lingam as an offering, and there's other things to do with that, but there's several ways that, a lot of different ways you can worship Shiva, and that's one of the popular ones.
Okay. Have you had to deal with anybody challenging your beliefs or questioning anything, or have you been able to basically escape the idiot challenges of people who don't share the same path?
It hasn't been too bad on me compared to some people, but I've had a lot of times, like the things that people would say if they were to ask me about it, or if they just notice and say something to me. A lot of times it would be well-intended concern, but also naive concern, right? Like thinking that it's devil worship, or I'm getting myself into trouble and I don't know what I'm doing or whatever. And usually I'm able to explain to some degree what I do. Some people I don't even need to offer it up, so I don't bother. But usually it's mostly like it's well intended, but coming from a place of ignorance, because what I'm doing is it's just from a different culture, so people don't understand what they're seeing, and different religious beliefs dominate here, so there's gonna be some misunderstandings.
Right. Most pagans I've met are voracious readers. how about you? Are you a reader? Do you have favorite authors that have led you down this road, or authors that you would suggest that people that are interested in maybe learning more about where you're at, who they should read?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I love to read. Unfortunately, I read so much I don't remember a lot of the authors' names, though, because, if you go through a lot. But, the big books, if anyone's interested in this path, are Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. And that's, the most famous book of yoga knowledge. And it's kind of like a manual to self-realization. Okay. That would be probably the first. And then another is Vashista's Yoga, which it tells a bunch of stories in allegorical form. It's more like a right-brained approach to self-realization. So one is very linear and logical, and then the other, it tells you stories so that you see through the action of the story a bigger message about reality that it's conveying. So the two of those are pretty good combination for someone that wants to get a handle on this.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Let's ask some questions about practical meditation, if you don't mind. Sure. One of the things that people that I talk to that have problems with meditation, one of the things that they have problems with is finding that focus through that first level and being able to even get to that second level. Do you have any advice for people that just have a problem focusing, people with ADHD, things like that, that just kind of get in the way, or how to deal with busy head while you're sitting there trying to clean it so that you can head for that second state?
One thing is to have a bit more control over your environment, which sometimes means taking a few things out that can exacerbate having the racing thoughts and everything. And so that means just less noise, maybe less fast-paced entertainment, at least for a little while before you sit down, like maybe an hour before, so your mind is not bombarded by constantly changing images and so forth.
Okay.
And then it's always helped me to not have too many stimulants like caffeine right before, I want that a little bit out of my system before I sit down.
Okay.
And then pick a meditation technique that, because they're all different. Pick one that works best for you. Like I said, one is Trodic or candle gazing, where you're just repeatedly bringing your attention back to the flame. Another, if you want to give your mind something to do, it's a little more active, would be the mantras. And you can do those out loud, or you can do them silently, or a combination, which I've done. And then you can also do breathing meditation, because we all breathe. So you just pay attention in and out, and you follow that long enough. Right. Gradually your thoughts slow down, and eventually you'll land in that place.
Okay.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. I know a lot of folks run into walls with that, and it pushes them away from meditation, and meditation has a lot of benefits. There's a lot that you can get from it. I've done a lot of meditation myself, and I've done the Necrotic and other things. Absolutely. And it's a great way to focus. Personally, I have ADHD, and when I started to learn how to meditate, I was newly recovering alcoholic about 30 years ago.
Oh, okay.
And I was learning how to go to sleep without being drunk or high. And that's what I used meditation for, was to help me center, ground, find that place to calm my mind to where I could go to sleep.
Right, yeah.
That's what started me down part of this path. I was already on the pagan path before that, but the particular path I'm on now, that's part of what actually kicked me down it, literally. You're pretty much a solitary practitioner. Do you ever you don't really have the opportunity to interact much with communities yet? You're working on building them, though.
Right, that's what I'm getting into now. I have been pretty locally solitary. I am initiated under a guru, and I've met a lot of the fellow disciples are my friends, and they're all international. But we've had some meetups before in California, London. So cool. That's happened occasionally. That's been really great.
Yeah, that's neat.
That's neat.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And so other than that, like for the most part, like I've been, it's just been me grinded my practices out here, and I do like a lot of that. But there's also a time to get together with other people, and that's the phase I'm kind of moving into now. So
awesome. So what thing about your point of view has changed the most, or have you noticed the most about the world? Kind of either direction you want to go with that. Since you started down this path, what have you opened yourself up to that you didn't even expect?
a lot of it would be like seeing my connectedness with other people, everything around me, and knowing my emotions a lot better, and like what my triggers are, and through that you see your interaction with other people, because there's such an interconnectedness there between what one person does, how the other responds, and back and forth. And so I'm a lot more aware of that now than in the beginning, when I would have seen myself as an isolated unit in a separate reality, and now it's much more blended. Right. So that's been a big change for me.
That is a complete and total switch point of view. Congratulations on that. That's seeing yourself within the web instead of outside of the web, and maybe tentatively connected to the web, but no, we're all inside of the web no matter what we want.
Right.
But yeah, very cool. Do you have a specific goal on your path? Is there a dedication and self-initiation? You said you have a guru that you study under. Are there more classes, more certifications to pursue? What's in your future for you? How are you looking to manifest how you grow next on your path?
Well, my ultimate goal is self-realization. So yeah, I'm working very hard towards that, and obviously it's a lot of work. But yeah, there's that, and then other than that, it would be, which is not so much an individual thing, but the goal of a thriving spiritual community that's going to, positively impact the world. That's definitely something I want to do moving forward.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I've really enjoyed talking with you, man.
Oh, thanks a lot. Yeah, I really appreciate this. So it's cool.
Tell me a little bit about your environment that you operate in your world. Are you are you stuck out in the middle of the Bible Belt, or in the middle of the country? Are you in a city, or is it going to be harder for you to find other folks? Or, because I know you're out in like Illinois, but
yeah,
I didn't look at the city.
Okay, yeah, so, small town in Illinois. I can find, I'm near Champaign. There's more going on there because it's university town.
Right.
So there's enough. A lot of it was because I just didn't get out much, and it's natural for someone that's into meditation and stuff. You get in your own world, and you don't even make the effort. So that was a lot of it, and now I'm just making the effort. And it'll take a little work to meet people, but they're out there if I just get out there enough. So I should be okay.
The last question is there a specific place, website, Facebook groups, YouTube channels that folks should go look to find you, to find information about meditation, to find information that you think that they should learn?
Yeah, so I'm just now getting my social media started again, but it should have some pretty good info up pretty soon. Awesome. I have an Instagram, my name on there, Adi Darma, the Nomad. Okay. I have a YouTube channel, Adi Darma, again, and an email for the group I'm starting, Mystics of the Golden Age at protonmail.com. So if anyone's interested in any of this, you want to connect, you want to grow, get a hold of me. I love to talk about this stuff. So
fantastic. And all the links will be down in the description. So
excellent.
You'll be able to just click right in and head out and look at all of Adi's stuff. I've really enjoyed talking with you, man. This has been great. I look forward to hopefully doing it again down in the future. I check in on you, see how things are going. thank you very much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you to all those folks at home for watching and enjoying our conversation. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Have a great day. Peace.
Thanks.